Good evening. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Whew, we got a lot. Let me get... Hello, Rocco. Hello, Miss Melody. Okay. So, let's talk about the first, I guess it's, in my opinion, going forward, but then going back. So if you watch the live stream of the court hearing where Elijah's mom, Katrina, was just, she was not present, but her attorney was, and there was reference to a possible resolution that she needed to further discuss with her client. So I know that many people, will say that there's, it's kind of standard operating procedure, but apparently a plea deal has been on the table. Oh my gosh, how did you get back here with your nasty comment? You are such a troll. Oh my gosh. Sorry. They're gone now. I thought they were blocked the last time. Apologize. Anyways, there's been a plea deal on the table apparently since I believe it was April 26th for the charges that Katrina is facing. And I understand that in most situations that, I guess you can call it normal to make plea deals. But in this particular case, the thought of a plea deal makes me sick to my stomach because it's basically like would be a plea deal on her existing charges. It's not like we'll give you a deal on these charges if you talk to us about anything related to Elijah, because that would be a plea deal related to a whole different set of charges that have not been brought on her. So, there's a lot of debate online about this being a first time offense, and she might not get time. She might get, a year, 2 years. And then you add in good time, and you add in, time served since she's, been since the date she's been in custody, which was February 26th. And right now, the only felony is the chronic neglect of a child, party to a crime. And that is the chronic neglect, party to a crime charge is the felony. The 2 counts of resisting or obstructing an officer, I'm fairly confident, are for lying. And those are misdemeanors. And the 4th count of neglecting a child, which is not the party to a crime, okay? I believe that is regarding the, where her daughter was left in the car in the winter. And I believe that's because with chronic, they have to be talking about Elijah, because this was over a span of time that she put her son in this situation, versus with her daughter, she's only being charged for the one incident that they have on record of her leaving her daughter in the car. So This is scary to me. So Jesse, the boyfriend, has said he wants trial, okay, at least to date. He has a far more serious record, and if you aren't aware of it, he had federal charges, so there is a potential federal hold on him as well. So he has more reason to take it all the way to trial than to take a plea. And his record is worse. So let's see. I'm trying to look at what the minimum and max sentence is on this. So it's 215 subsection 1. So for chronic neglect, it would have to be them committing 3 or more violations within a specified period of time involving the same child, or the person has at least one prior conviction of a violation, which they don't in this case. So we are looking at commits 3 or more violations. And what do they have this? They have this as a class H felony. Okay, so in Wisconsin, a class H felony is if the child suffers bodily harm as a consequence. If it had been a class D felony, the child would suffer death as a consequence. So it's possible that if there is no evidence to ever show that Katrina had any direct involvement in if let's put it this way, if Elijah were found and he had passed away, okay, and we're talking about the state of Wisconsin law here, and that injury occurred as something that Jesse did, but they could not prove that Katrina, had any involvement whatsoever. They could charge it under a class D felony where it was as a result of their neglect, the child suffered death as a consequence. Uh, so so this was what, class H. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Okay. So the class D, which would have been if he passed away, would be punishable by up to 25 years. So we're H. So it's up to 10 years or $10,000. Now, I am seeing all over the internet speculation that, she will get a slap on the wrist because she has not, they don't have any evidence of anything other than her sending him there, which in my opinion, they have more evidence than that. They have evidence of her sending him there, her photographing his condition, sharing the photographs of his condition, and allowing him to then stay there under those circumstances. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen So we're going to kind of backpedal a little bit. So I can make sure everybody understands who our players are in this picture. So Katrina is the mom. Katrina is the mom of Elijah, and then she has an older daughter who is autistic. Jesse is what you could call Katrina's boyfriend, and was where she put Elijah into his care, for all of these things that we've talked about before. And that is Jesse Vang. And then we have Jimmy Vu, and Jimmy Vu is Elijah's biological father. And Jimmy is currently in prison. And so we have a lot of really dark things that are involved in this case, and a lot of dangerous things that are involved in this case that would really make people nervous to come forward and speak. That would make people very, very uncomfortable. We have people who have committed homicides. We have people who use and deal illegal substances. We have DV. We have the sale of at least adults, women. So there's a whole lot here, okay? And the gang affiliation is the Asian gang, the Young and Dangerous. Jimmy and Jesse, who are alleged to be cousins, still working on being 100% certain on a blood tie there. But they're Hmong Americans, and so they are affiliated with the Young and Dangerous Asian gang. And is it Jimmy's? Let's see. Jesse has an older brother. And this older brother is, in my opinion, everybody is a player in this situation, in my opinion. This is a very let's call it a web. So this is regarding Chucky, and this is the brother. Now, Jesse has used his brother's name since his brother has been in jail. He has used it as an alias, okay? But in this article, you can get a little understanding, okay? He was featured on America's Most Wanted as a gang leader wanted for shooting 3 people at a hotel near Menasha in 2006. Chucky Vang was 24 at the time. He was profiled April 19th on a special edition of the program that will feature one fugitive from every state. Police said Vang and up to 20 other gang members went to the former Fox Inn looking for somebody who owed them money for illegal drugs. Instead, they targeted the wrong people. 2 men and a woman were wounded after Vang shot 5 times into a bathroom where the 3 were hiding. The gang is based out of Sheboygan. A warrant last December charged Vang with 3 counts of attempted first-degree homicide. Town of Menasha police detective hopes the TV episode could help find the suspect. The show has been on for 22 years now. And this matters, okay, because we are talking about the hierarchy. So it is important. Let's see, that was, what's it? Oh, 6. So he pled to two F-class felonies, second-degree reckless injury, party to a crime, 2 counts. And that was pled down. Okay. This is how unfair things are. That was pled down from 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide. 3 counts of first-degree intentional homicide were pled down to 2 second-degree reckless injury charges. He got, what was it, like 2, so he got 156 days of credit. His sentence was like 7 years, and he only had to serve a little less than half of that. And even to, let's see, 2018, the court authorized that the defendant traveled outside the country. Like this is a joke. This is a joke, okay? We're talking about sorry. What comment? Oh, I did remove the comment. Do you see the comment? Oh, Ginger, it wasn't really him. It's somebody who is made a fake profile. Sorry, I just saw your comment now because I was on a different screen. That isn't really the creator he's pretending to be. And I also had somebody in here in the last live pretending to be Magnolia. It's just gross. But the comment should be gone. It said it was gone. Okay. So we have this brother. Now, here we go. So in 2016. So this is what you can still see it. See, I deleted it on my end and it said that it was gone and that only the guy there could see it. I cannot. Let me see. Oh my gosh. I even reported it. I think it should be gone now. I reported it and everything, unless they came back and they posted it really quick. I apologize. It should be gone. Okay, so Jesse, this is who had Elijah. This is who he was in Elijah's care, okay? So in California, there was, some engagement with Katrina where basically she, was being trafficked or working, whichever it was, for money, for drugs. And there's ties to California, there's ties to Nevada, but let's talk about Wisconsin. So Jesse, this is who had Elijah at the time he went missing. He was charged in Allegheny County in 2016 with conspiracy to commit human sales and SA. Those charges were later dismissed. But here is some of what the complaint said. The victim was a woman, okay? This woman was Katrina. This woman was Elijah's mom. 2 women were at a party in Appleton using meth and heroin and later went to a hotel. The victim used more drugs at the hotel, was left alone with 2 men, and was SA'd. And I believe that this was both Jesse and Jimmy. The victim was told she would be taken to Minnesota because there's ties there too, and would not be her own person anymore. The victim feared she would be forced to work in the sex trade, and the other woman eventually returned, and the 2 women got away to another hotel where they stayed in a bathroom and asked a maid to call the police. A search warrant says that a month and a half later, the victim told the police she no longer wanted the SA investigated. Jesse was charged anyway with conspiracy to commit human sales and SA. But court documents say the charges were dismissed after a federal indictment against Vang. There were no federal sale or SA charges against Vang as a result of this, okay? He was federally indicted on conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine, sentenced to federal prison and then probation. He was released in February of 2022 on probation. And this situation and these charges obviously then have him in violation of his federal probation. One concern I have is if the feds take him on their hold, there'd be less chance to get more information from him. But I really don't believe he will talk. I don't believe he would, quote unquote, snitch. I don't think that is in his DNA. In April of 2021, Katrina was living at the Green Bay Women's Shelter. In 2017, she was living in Appleton. So let's see, this is Jimmy's. So dad, biological father, Jimmy, okay, he was found guilty in he was found guilty of child abuse, high probability of great harm, class F felony, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon with a domestic abuse modifier, which is a class G felony, guilty of battery with a domestic abuse modifier, which is only a class A misdemeanor, guilty of disorderly conduct with a domestic abuse class B misdemeanor modifier, guilty of possession of THC greater than 10,000 grams, class F felony, guilty of possession of methamphetamine, class I felony, and the he was given in 2022, which this is what he is in jail for right now. Biological father. He, had no contact orders against Katrina, Elijah, and the daughter. And the daughter would be what, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish. Looks like, and then it looks like it also extended the no contact to children he shares with another woman. So my understanding is that this incident, I don't know if you've heard the hearing or not, but Katrina's mom references a traumatic brain injury, and my understanding is that was caused by Jimmy, the biological father. Now, my understanding also is that Katrina, is extremely well versed in playing the manipulator. I am the first to want to advocate for a victim in a domestic violence situation. And I certainly can understand that somebody who has an addiction often gets put in a situation where to survive or feed their addiction, they are selling themselves. But at what point do we cross the line of possibly just pure evil? And the engagement between so she dropped the charges because she first drops the charges because then she says she was in a relationship with dad, Jimmy. Okay. So she wants to drop the charges because now he's not her boss. He's her boyfriend. He's not controlling her. He's her boyfriend. They're in a relationship. But I also have to listen to the mom because, her mom has, in my opinion, mothers, know best. And, the mom has spoken multiple times on this case. This is, let's see, she interviewed with WISN, ABC in Wisconsin. We'll take a quick listen in there.
We'd take him to the beach. He loved going to the beach. He was just a really sweet kid.
Jody Bauer sitting at a Wisconsin Dells park bench, recalling memories with her daughter, Katrina Bauer, and her grandson, Elijah Vu, a little boy with a big smile.
And she always said Elijah was her little ray of sunshine.
Seeing her daughter as a mother, a bright light, a contrast to the dark, a cycle of drug addiction going back 20 years.
Watching your kid fall is the hardest thing in the world. You always want what's best, but you can't get it. It's their life. So that's hard.
Jody says addiction complicated their relationship. She says Katrina's life was deeply affected by the abusive father of her children, Jimmy Vu, who's in prison. Jody thought she was getting help.
Her entire life revolved around those kids. I don't know what broke. I don't know what changed. I wish I could say that she relapsed. I don't even know that.
Nobody's seen Elijah in more than 2 months. The day an Amber Alert went out burned into Jody's memory. But what really stuck out, how her daughter reacted.
She was calm. I think the investigators that called me that night said she was cold. Whether she was detached or in denial, I don't know.
Investigators say Katrina sent Elijah to stay with her boyfriend, Jesse Vang, in Two Rivers to learn how to be a man. Vang told police when he woke up from a nap February 20th, the little boy was gone.
It was the mama bear, the anger, the instinct, the hysteria that was missing that it just hit me wrong.
When you did talk to her, is she asking, where's Elijah? Is she still wanting to know where he is?
At the time, she was still believing he just walked out the door.
It's a theory Two Rivers police told 12 News they ruled out. They also don't think the 3-year-old was abducted.
I don't think Trina knows more because I think she would have broke by now.
Jody says she thinks getting answers relies on her daughter receiving mental health care.
Until we get her in touch with what's real and what's not real, we're not going to know.
As Katrina and Vang remain in jail, Elijah remains missing.
Please keep looking for him because somebody's going to find something. So, yeah.
You want everyone to keep looking?
Yeah, I do. It's you can't give up.
Katrina Bauer lived in Wisconsin Dells when Elijah went missing and had been traveling back and forth between there and Two Rivers. Two Rivers police tell us they believe Elijah is in the Manitowoc County area.
And police, Kendall, as police are still investigating, they're asking the public to continue searching, and they're even asking for information as well.
Right. Police say the FBI has followed up on nearly 2,000 tips and leads and sifted through thousands of video files. There's a $40,000 reward authorities are offering for information that might lead to Elijah.
All right. So that was that interview. Now, prior to that, on March 4th, her mom made a victim impact statement, and the statement said, "I have known Katrina Bauer longer than anyone, as I am her." Oh, sorry. I think I was muted. Anyways, on March 4th, so that would have been before this interview, she I believe it was one of her first hearings, her mom that we just watched, Jody, submitted a victim impact statement. She said, "I have known Katrina longer than anyone, as I am her mother. At this time, I am asking the court to deny any bond modification for a multitude of reasons. I understand bond is not meant as a punishment, but as an assurance to appear. While you have access to some of Katrina's records, there are records in other states, including Nevada and California, you are not seeing. She has contacts in other states that may be willing to assist her, depending on the story she is telling." So this is interesting. depending on the story she is telling. Her story always depends on her audience. At this time, rather than aligning in locating her son, she feels the need to reiterate what a good guy Jesse is and is fully defending him and his actions. By aligning with him, she could potentially have access to his extended family and the ability to flee the area. You're right, Melody, Miss Melody. There wasn't much good in his short life. There just wasn't, and it's heartbreaking. Katrina routinely will blame anyone and everyone for what happens without taking responsibility for her actions. It goes without saying that she is incapable of making appropriate judgments in everyday life, which will likely include being available for future court dates and questioning. Katrina has no ties to the community. When I asked her why she would go back to Jesse, she stated, "I felt alone. I can assure you she is well aware of resources available, but she chose not to use them. She severed her relationship with me in October of 2022, so there is no family in the area. While paper will show minimal income, there is unaccounted for income when compared to her spending. I am aware she allowed Jesse to claim her children as dependents on his taxes, and he gave her half of the refund he received for them. I am aware that she received food stamps for a child not in her care and has had miscellaneous unclaimed income. In 2016, we resided in California, and my oldest daughter was having heart surgery in Wisconsin, so I was here with her. At that time, Katrina faked a forced abduction and had a missing persons report filed in California. She was then located in Minnesota, where she was taken in on a hold for erratic behavior caused by drug use. When the officers drove from Wisconsin to get her, she refused to leave, stating she was there by her own free will. The entire abduction was a farce, but does show she has the ability to disappear when she wishes to do so. Katrina has struggled with depression and anxiety for many years. She has a history of erratic behavior and a long history of drug abuse. She has been in 2 mental health holds and now, suffering from a traumatic brain injury, is highly likely to forget mandatory appearances. I don't feel it is worth the risk to lower her bond, especially as Elijah has not been found and many questions remain unanswered. She does need to be held accountable for what rolls out in the future, and I feel releasing her would be a flight risk. I have been a victim of her verbal and emotional abuse for a very long time. If the court finds any reason to reduce her bail, I would like to be assured of my peace and safety with a court-ordered no contact and GPS monitoring. The grandmother has called out, I believe, Katrina this whole time, from the beginning, and still continues to not support her daughter's actions, and her unwillingness to speak. So I'm not sure, thinking out loud, if there's something specific you're referring to, or maybe I'm misunderstanding, I guess, what you're meaning by you lost respect for her. I think I can say this: anybody who has ever known someone who was addicted to some of the most severe substances like heroin, meth, cocaine, crack. It can affect a person to no end. They have zero inhibitions. They don't have respect for themselves. They don't have respect for other people. They can, and I also think that they're really good at hiding themselves, which, is why I do agree she would be a flight risk under all circumstances, because when you are living that lifestyle, your lifestyle is on the streets, it's in motel rooms, you're transient, she could end up in Minnesota, California, Nevada, anywhere, just and possibly hidden. And to be honest with you, if she gets out and I maybe somebody that is able to communicate with her will listen to what I'm about to say, and maybe it would, she'll hear it. She is, in my opinion, in more danger of losing her own life if she is released before Elijah is found. Because if she did not do the action, but has knowledge of what happened, there are so many very, very dangerous people attached to all of the people that are involved. And she could lose her life so that she doesn't have the ability to speak. So she herself, in my opinion, could be harmed if she was released. That's my opinion. Piecing together the situation, Sandy, is I do believe that as far as the daughter is concerned, she did lose the daughter and then to get the daughter back. I believe as long as she had Elijah, she never lost custody of him. But she, was, I believe after she ended up in the shelter. And then, she never severed ties with these people. Even once the father of her children went to prison, it was Jesse. And, in the past year, and something I'm still trying to understand is, there's a lot of people that are saying, where she lived, which was in Wisconsin Dells. And for anybody that isn't aware of what the Dells are, is, it's like a mecca. There's, yes, there's lakes and all of that, but there's just tons and tons of resorts and water park resorts. And it's like the water park capital, basically. And, apparently there's a seedy underworld of business transactions that happen there, and that trafficking is a problem there. And I was not aware of that, so I can't attest to that. I'm trying to align that with fact and not just, speculation. But that's where she ended up living as of most recently. And, by all means, she seemed to have everybody convinced that she was, getting back on the straight and narrow. But that is typical of somebody who has a substance abuse issue. I believe I saw that back in, I think it was 2016. I think was when she found out that she had hepatitis. She was having a whole lot of health issues. Um, and let's see. So some people, are talking about the need to, search the Dells, and now they have added the Portage area. And so the most recent press release was 4 days ago, and if you haven't read it, from the police, there were, of course, social media rumors that Elijah was found, which I didn't buy that, obviously. But they said recently rumors surfaced on social media platforms stating Elijah had been found. It is not true. The information is disrespectful to the family of Elijah and detracts from our efforts in locating him. We remain the sole source of factual information in this investigation and will release more information and updates when they are available to share. As we approach 4 months since Elijah's disappearance, we would like to reiterate that our search efforts will continue. Since our last update, additional drone searches coordinated by the Wisconsin Drone Network were conducted and will continue to be conducted with the assistance of the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office drone team and the police department drone team. Canine searches were conducted in several areas of interest by Wisconsin Canine Search and Rescue. In the coming weeks, we plan to continue our search efforts on water with assistance from Bruce's Legacy with additional sonar searching. The FBI continues to follow up on national tips and leads while state, county, and local agencies continue to follow up on recent leads within Wisconsin, most specifically in our area. That would be the Manitowoc area, Two Rivers, Manitowoc County, Wisconsin Dells, and Portage areas. Investigators continue to analyze the large amount of video and other data, including extensive and ongoing drone search footage with assistance from federal and state agencies. So again, this goes with multiple cases, okay? We're in, we're talking February 20th to June 20th now, okay? There's still combing through surveillance and video footage and files that were submitted because they had a public link where people could upload any surveillance that they have that could have been of value, along with, they do a lot of these large scale drone searches. That doesn't mean that they see everything from that footage just right then and there. They comb through all of that again. So all of this time has passed and they're still going through that. Okay, so think about that when you think about other cases, that it just isn't an instantaneous, we reviewed everything, nothing to see here. And they have talked about, re-looking at things, which I always believe is important because you go back to the beginning, and if you go back to the beginning, they had footage from a few days prior. but they don't have proof of life, I believe, since they saw him in the auto shop. So the morning he was reported missing, they don't necessarily know that that's when he went missing. We also have the other person who I am doing investigation on, which is the person who loaned the vehicle to Jesse. And it's the Nissan that's on the flyer. They've impounded the vehicle, but they still want to see any surveillance footage picking up that vehicle. And the person, so there's that person, but a lot of people don't understand. Now, Katrina was using this white car that Jesse had. She was using that to get to and from. Then he's got a truck, but that truck has an IID in it. So if he's not clean, the vehicle doesn't start. So not only if you're trying to do something you shouldn't be doing, would you want to use someone else's vehicle, but if you're impaired while you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, then he would need to use a different vehicle. If he didn't want it to happen in his white car, he would have to use somebody else's, because he couldn't go in the truck because you would have to blow. So thinking out loud, I guess I'm just maybe not, I don't really know all, I can't attest to what groups you're in or what sources you follow. My interactions and understanding is that the grandmother does believe that she's mentally ill. She also believes that she has a serious substance abuse problem and that she just isn't there anymore. But I see the grandma asking questions all the time about her own daughter, about Jesse, picking through the case, accusing them of possibly, lying about this or lying about that, or, basically playing with the whole case in her brain the way any of us do in these situations. So, but I don't, I can't attest to maybe what, if you're in, certain groups, what they might be saying or what you've seen her say, or if, other creators are saying things. I can only speak to my own, what I hear, see, that kind of stuff. And, as far as I'm aware of, I'm sure as a mother, would she be sad if her daughter went to prison for the rest of her life? Sure. But I don't think that she wants anything other than her to talk. I don't know. I feel like she, by continually making these statements about and again, I can only speak, my opinion. And I understand why it is like all, we have to blame everybody involved because, it's why didn't everybody see? Why didn't everybody do? But when, we're not dealing with, your normal maybe couple where on the, they're living in the suburbs and they got this, show of this beautiful life going on, like a Chris and Katie, everything's fine here, and it's, and it takes a long time to figure out what's, in there deep. No, you are talking about it. If you haven't ever had experience interacting with somebody who is addicted, not to mention, I mean, if they don't want to be there, if they don't want you around, you're not going to be around. She doesn't even have, she's under no obligation to tell her mom, this is my address, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing with my life. The grandma made it clear. She cut ties with her. If you've ever watched Interventions, they say, at some point you have to draw the hard line where you say, if you aren't going to do what you need to do, then I can't do this anymore. It's not, and it is up to CPS. It is up to the courts. And it is, and I talk about this all the time, the bar is so high to lose your kids. And then their primary goal is to reunite them with their parents. And sometimes, in some cases, that could take just 2 clean drug tests over the course of a month or 2 months. Well, and, Miss Melody, I believe in some cases, that is the case. But sorry, oh my gosh. When you look at what she was entrenched in, we're not just talking about her self-sabotaging herself. We are talking about real, some of the most dangerous situations. And sometimes addicts will stay close to home. They'll even be using, in the basement of their mom's house or their dad's house, which I'm sure is possibly how this, could have began, where she felt like I'll just sneak around and do it. But you can't presume that she allowed anybody to be around her kids, any grandparents. And she had made relationships, probably not really real relationships, but utilized neighbors in her apartment complex who all had mostly nice things to say about her, apparently, to babysit. And if she wasn't truly severing herself from the people or the addiction, then it makes total sense that she would continue to alienate the family. I saw numerous posts around when she was trying to get better and she was sick, and she had some health issues going on. And I think she was still in California at the time, and everything at that point in time, she's, I'm trying to get sober. My mom's a saint. My mom's amazing. She's so great. She's being there. It's hard to blame people when we don't know how hard they tried. And when you're dealing with some of these harder substances, and you have men around her that are violent, dangerous killers, right, but let me tell you, okay, Wisconsin is like if anybody is here from Wisconsin, drop a heart, okay? I could talk all day about the travesties that occur in the judicial system as it pertains to children, domestic violence, these issues in the state of Wisconsin. And that's why I say the bar is so high, because it is a state by state, and then sometimes it's down to county by county how certain things are handled. And that is case in point. If you look at the two other cases that I have with the guy Wanda, and then, having their kids in the cages, and then you have Tristan and Brittany Hall cases. But I can't tell you how many people I have encountered. Yes, Sandy. I mean, it's bad. It is. I mean, you just look at what I just said earlier about this man shot people, and he pled down 3 first-degree homicide charges to 7 years, half of it deferred, and, like totally reduced charges from first-degree homicide. Domestic violence is almost entirely a misdemeanor. I personally, in my own life, can attest there are so many repeat domestic violence offenders, and they are, if they get sentenced, because the plea deals here, you're talking, when you talk about like strangulation, the severest stuff, they plead this stuff down to disorderly conduct, types of things like that. And then they then might later commit an offense on a child. And then they plea that down to, okay, I'll serve a year, and then you get your good time credit, and then you have your time served, and guess what? They're out in like 45 days. And on the second offense, and the third offense. And then you start finding these people way before YouTube and everything, okay? I remember I did this huge, we're talking like 8 years ago, a statistical pattern analysis in just one county, the county I was living in at the time, of how many people got deferred sentences for offenses involving children or domestic violence, how many got deferred sentences, how many got early release. And you look at this, okay? This man who had Elijah was charged with human sales, okay? He's charged with human sale. She wants to drop the charges, and in some places they don't let you dictate that. And that's a whole nother problem I have, okay, is it's really hard to get a victim to maintain the entire time to see through to conviction. So often a victim of DV backs down, okay? So in some states or counties in certain states, it is not the victim's choice. It is the prosecutor's decision as to whether or not they want to drop charges. But they choose to send him up the river for the drug charge instead on the federal charges and forego pursuing. Now, had he been charged with both the federal and still the state of Wisconsin went through with charging him with the human sales, would he even have been outright now to do what he did? And then you forgo charging him in Wisconsin, you drop those charges, you charge him federally, and then he's out so dang quick. And he does what he does on probation. He's still selling drugs. He's still involved with his gangs. He's still selling people. He's still doing all of these things. So this is stuff where it's asking later. Are there any child endangerment charges? No, I mean, she actually has more charges, I believe, than he does. Because he is only facing one count of chronic neglect of a child. One. Right now, he is facing one count. She has two, but only two of the child charges. Only one is a felony, and the other two are the resisting or obstruction, which I bet you are going to go away. I bet you this is going to come down to the misdemeanor. This is going to probably be pled down to the misdemeanor, maybe 2 misdemeanor counts of the child neglect. And she's been in there March, April, May, June. So by the time it goes to court, she'll get 4 months credit. First offense. But this is how the system goes. Even if she goes to jail, and let's say they don't find Elijah, she gets out, okay? She's probably going to get her daughter back. That's how this works. Now, this is the same, it's the same as Chris Proudfoot has faith right now. His wife's son is missing. He is an abuser, and he got his daughter. This is not a, and yes, we could go down everybody's family tree and blame everybody in the family and every friend that didn't step in and that didn't do anything. But in every circumstance, it is, it varies. And you, in this state, you could report that, the father of your child has your child and they are actively using X substance. And if they schedule and go to a visit and they don't find evidence that they believe he is doing anything, that's it. It's over. They can't force him at that point to take a test. It is asinine. That's the whole problem is the assumption, shouldn't always be that reuniting with the biological birth parents isn't always the best thing. Why is reunification like that the only option? You should have to factor in so many other things. But, I look at the judge in that case, and that judge in Chris's case. This appears to be a pattern of hers. And I found it to be a pattern with one judge more than anybody in the county I was living in. And I know somebody who I watched the chain go from first it was just possession of pot, then it was domestic, then it was a worse domestic, then it was possession of a harder narcotic, then it was possession with intent to deliver, then it was an offense involving a child, and then there was barely, it was like credit, then probation. And then, there were drugs while on probation, and it just continued and continued. When, at what point do you decide that certain things are just so egregious that they don't have the right anymore? They don't get it. They don't get the right to destroy others' lives, children's lives. You don't get to take their life in any way, shape, or form anymore because of your choices. And should they be allowed visitation down the road? I don't know, but there has to be certain charges or instances, and the plea deals they infuriate me. As soon as I thought to myself, you can't be serious. And everybody, is all, well, it's standard operating procedure that in almost every situation they offer plea deals. And it's like, no, that shouldn't be standard operating procedure to negotiate. It shouldn't. Somebody does something wrong to this degree, the first route should not be, well, we need to save some money, so let's try to plea this out and not have to go to trial. No. There are victim advocates involved in this. The family, the extended family on, both the biological father and mother's side are actively, involved. Between, searches and, they're not sensationalizing it to like you have in Sebastian's case, which is probably a good thing. But they won't shun you away if you ask a question. They'll answer, they'll be forthcoming. But they're devastated. They're all devastated. It's not the same as like with Sebastian, where you have grandparents that aren't, pounding the pavement, and sharing, his picture every day online, and, calling a spade a spade. That's the opposite here. It is the opposite here. Well, in this case, I hope, obviously the judge never has to accept a plea. I don't know if I've ever watched a case where the judge decided he didn't take a plea. But I look at Ruby, Frankie, Jody, Hildebrandt, like their plea deals still make me want to just, sick to my stomach. They don't deserve deals. They say they do some deals to avoid re-victimizing victims. I just think there's ways around things, and I just, in certain situations, I don't believe it. I don't believe in them. and I don't believe they should have got deals. And that was an entire joke, and that was a disgrace. Which is why I have a lot of fear in this case. This judge was quick to say, with what's going on here, he has continued to say, I don't trust you. I'm not reducing your bond. Not happening. But if the sides do come to an agreement, now that doesn't mean, you could have the defense attorney saying, I got to talk to the, my client. That doesn't mean that Katrina, didn't make her attorney think she was considering it, and she really isn't. I don't believe that the police department in Two Rivers or the county sheriff would in any way, shape, or form support a plea deal. And I know that it's very hard for some of these police officers and detectives when they do good work, very good work, and they do what their job is, but then, the justice system gets a hold and it doesn't play out the way it probably should. And right now, to me, the leverage is holding them at bay. And I don't really care how much it costs to take them to trial, because basically I watched a pre-trial, and it's in the playlist for Elijah. You can watch because Jesse filed his motion for, the charges to be more clear, and they had the hearings, and, we heard testimony and all of that. I've read all the documents. Listen, I mean, take him to take him to I'm sorry, I read Dr. Seuss comment and my brain just went blank. Take them all to trial. Take them to trial. I don't think they're going to be found guilty, but it gives more time to continue the searching, because when the searching began, in Wisconsin, now the climate's different. Everything's different now. Okay. When the weather changes. So researching, has to happen and is underway. Yeah, I understand. I'm with you. That's the thing. There are people who work voluntarily in order to, live their lifestyle of abusing substances and paying their bills. Sometimes that starts involuntarily, and then it, turns into them just feeling, well, this is what I'm going to do because this is how I pay my bills. Could Jesse have been the boss and the boyfriend, so to speak? Sure. Because most working girls have a boss. And I think, you have a gray area now where, if a woman says, that I'm doing this against my will, then it's a victim situation instead of, a charge. Now, that might be different if it was on the Vegas Strip. And I'm still digging into, everything that transpired in California and Nevada, and she could have been picked up in Nevada for this. But that also could have been before she had kids. I think what she did up until late 2023 into 2024, I think is when she started going downhill again. But I think she had this window when, after she had Elijah, where, there was the big violent episode that happened with Elijah's dad. He goes to jail. She goes to, the women's shelter. And then my understanding is, Jesse kind of stepped in and, was like, oh, here, I have a farmhouse for you to stay at with your kids. And, I'm going to help you, kind of thing. And then, it was clear, you can see the visual of, from when she was picked up along with her behavior that, she was using again. It was apparent to me, but she also wasn't, around her family at that time for them to be, yes, she had been, when this, early on, she was being trafficked. But then she began a relationship. And that is Elijah's dad. And then, Elijah's dad goes to jail. And the other guy that was involved in that, Jesse, who, may or may not be cousins, haven't 100% validated that. But then it goes to that. So did Jesse step in like, I'm your savior? Did Jimmy say, look, I'm in here now. I'm passing the baton for you to run things out here while I'm in here. And that's what his role was supposed to be. Basically, like, Jesse, you stand in for me while I'm gone. It's really hard to understand, but I believe that, there certainly probably are some mental illnesses, but those get exacerbated, and then you can get new ones, using these substances, some that may not even go away. I mean, psychosis, paranoia, we don't know if, I think that in the second half of 2023 into 2024, she started using again and getting really bad. And I think the decline was very quick. I think there is a strong possibility that there may have been a sale or an intent to sell Elijah. But a big part of me believes that somebody went too far with the discipline and it ruined, their sale, but they still had to take care of things. And we also don't know if, if marks were observed at a point where he was out in public, or if they felt like somebody was going to drop the hammer. Oh, thank you, Miss Melody. Oh, hey, Dolores. Yay, Dolores got the membership. That is so awesome. And I do just want to say, I'm not even making this up. I've been a little less on here between research and I have had the most severe leg pain in my whole entire life, and it's awful. But I was literally I wrote it down. Where was it? Oh no. Oh, I got it right here. I'm not even making this up. That I so sincerely wanted to. This was, wow, this was 2 weeks ago. Okay, I wrote this 2 weeks ago. This is how bad, because sometimes our conversations get off track. That I was saying I wanted to throw a huge shout out to Miss Melody, Ginger Snap, Bill Couch, True Crime Knitter, Joseph, Rocco, Vivian, Trade Squirrel, Dolores, Siobhan, and Dr. Sue. I don't think you were here then, um, uh, because you guys like say some of the most amazing stuff sometimes, not even just in the lives, um, but when you comment on like other videos or the members only things, or maybe if I'm like just sharing something personal, or just having a moment about, how I'm feeling about a certain thing. I mean, you guys are just so amazing, and you're so empathetic and uplifting, and you guys are just like the best. So, I mean, you guys just like literally, I was like so excited when I saw some of your names, like as I was getting ready to come on. I mean, just made my day. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you so much. But yeah, this severe leg pain, a tie with some lack of sleep, this past week and a half has just really been taking over. And while I do have a ton more on Elijah, I did want to just, since it's getting so late, I did want to switch over to Sebastian. I have not forgotten about Sebastian. Call me that observer in a party, the person who's in the corner quietly observing literally everything around them, and maybe speaking less, because some people have gotten more quiet, which I greatly appreciate their silence, because they were unhelpful. And some people we're doing well tonight. Thank you for being here. But the other rumor mills still continue. And the fabrication, in my opinion, of fake leads, fake storylines, it's still continuing. It's, as I've said before, it's getting to the point where it's just, geez, like embarrassing. Rocco, hey. It's getting embarrassing. It's been embarrassing. If I was part of that circle of the people in that life. So, let me just say something here. I'm going to say this about this first, about the financial situation. And I know a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And yes, I am the person who believes that if I hand a homeless person a $20 bill, who is standing outside the Walmart or something, if I choose to give them that $20 bill, if they turn around and they don't buy food with it, I can't control that. That's not my business. Why I handed that $20 bill over, that $5, we do those things because of who we are and what we want for the other person. Where they go with it from there isn't for us to say. So in those situations, I do believe a certain way. When it comes to GoFundMes, sometimes I have mixed feelings. Sometimes I feel like they're overused. Sometimes, I get mad, even in my local community when I feel like, people pick and choose who they feel is worthy of help and who's not. And I think that's terrible. I think it is in there somewhere. If you're a faithful person, you believe that God is judging you on your actions, not the actions of the people that, you gave that $20 to. However, there's been a lot of things said about the GoFundMe, and really, it's a lot of not my business. But then, now that we've gotten to the point of the validity of some of those funds being used on house payments, for the girl, Michaela, that is upsetting. That is very upsetting. And, how people receive that, it's mixed. You've got people who say, oh, it doesn't matter. You gave that money free and clear. You have some people who say, what was he doing? Was he trying to get, laid? You know, um, what kind of person is she? That she knows what that money was meant for. What was she doing? Either way it goes, she and Seth are both grown adults. Both of them know what the intentions were with that money. Whether he took that money and he bought 10 pizzas at Pizza Hut, or he bought, chose to spend $200 at an Aldi for groceries because it was cheaper. That's one thing. Okay. But when you are taking that money and that is not, in my opinion, much different than the people we are accusing of grifting, by telling people that if they fix your car, if they put gas in your truck, then I will come and I will help you. And when I get there, I'm going to need all these things. And various other grifters along the way. So was she a grifter herself? I don't know. We don't know. We really don't know the truth, because each side is going to have their own story. And each side is going to want us to feel like they were the victim. But in my opinion, again, we're dealing with grown-ups. And I think that was a completely inappropriate use of funds. And I do feel bad. And I do understand why there are people who, because I have seen people who have literally posted dollar amounts, dates, like I sent this much to the Cash App, then I sent this much to the GoFundMe, and then I mailed a check here. And, they're detailing out over the course of months how much money they have given. And to hear that, some of that money went to pay, delinquent mortgage payments, it's just wrong. And well, that's Nina. Yeah, yeah, he could have. He certainly could have. Um, so, yeah, I'm just going to say that. That's my opinion on the money situation. I do think it was inappropriate, a misuse. It happened. And, what happens from there, we don't know. People will still continue to give. The same people will still continue to support the wrong people. I have watched a lot of videos of people who are clearly probably in need of some medication that they should be taking that aren't taking, losing complete grips on reality. Then you have the audio, which I have still not played, and I do still have. I have the post. Because I'm sure in case anybody needs to know it. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, Michaela's money. Well, and it's now since has been verified. Where is Nick Barris? So here's the deal. Nick Barris got the footage from the neighbor. He was the first one with it. Anybody else who had it thereafter got it from yes, it is Dr. Sue. And Nick Barris has said very clear. Let's see. There are those who claim to see other images in the video. No. Some say they have pulled telling audio evidence from the video. No. The clip I received never had audio. Never had audio. If anything is heard, it's likely audio from when the video was recorded off of a monitor. In the absence of any new developments, there are those trying to make this video into something it is not. Me, I believe it shows individuals with small lights outside the home, which is what I have always believed. But that is only my opinion. I cannot prove it. And the only opinion that counts is investigators. And again, they say for now the video has no evidentiary value, which I don't believe that. It doesn't have evidentiary value, but the audio, that's where I lie. Regardless of all of it, I am going to go off of the very first person that had that video, and then it went everywhere else after that. Okay. And this audio coming up here in June, look, he never had audio. The video never had audio. So that is what I personally believe. And we can all discern what we want from any, content that we take in. There are supposedly looking into a couple tips. And let me just say this, I didn't jump down the bandwagon about the bone. It was just too easy. The bone found at St. Jude's at, the old burial ground. It was just too easy to fall into that rabbit hole. So I just allowed everybody else to fall into that rabbit hole. I just didn't want to dedicate hours and hours and hours of my life to talking about something that I did not believe was going to bear fruit. And if it did, I was certainly, let's just say this, short of a whole body turning up in Hendersonville, in that subdivision, or in maybe the Horn Lake campground, I'm not going to jump on any bandwagon speculating that any of that would be Sebastian if I had absolutely nothing to back that up. And the amount of people that did, I'm sorry, but that is not match the video of the flashlights up perfectly. You mean like match the lights to the audio? I mean, I just, I do not back the audio. That's all. Oh, okay, no. Oh, do you mean like to them not being a trash truck? Yeah, no, not a trash truck. Nope, not in my mind at all. But to me, oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Dr. Sue. The 16-year-old that was found in the cemetery, I already, I might tell you guys like, yeah, I know because I get the emails, and, I just want people to know, yeah, I do already know this. But I'm just not going to. I mean, and especially in that case, I felt like, they said 16. And a lot of people thought about Sebastian, but Sebastian's 15, and I understand it's really close in age, but for them to have specified the age, but then, talk about unidentified, told me that they hadn't informed the family, but they probably had a missing young man reported in that area that was 16. But the amount of people that I saw jump on this bone, I get it. How often do you hear like talking about like St. Jude, Memphis? Nobody talks about that until this case came along. And I'm a firm believer that he could be anywhere between here and there or anywhere else. But at the same time, I've continued to resound myself to the fact that if there isn't more said by Katie, and there isn't more, we're not going to know much. If the Bauer Sox have any involvement, if law enforcement did not do anything with their forensics or anything of their vehicles or their phones in the first 24 to 36 hours, there's a good chance that is long gone. Evidence would be long gone. I did listen to the majority, haven't finished it, of the woman who came from North Carolina, and Blue Eyes is what she's going by. The woman who I guess was talking to Chris Proudfoot and doing the searching in Tennessee with her daughter. And I was just like, it reminded me when she mentioned that Chris said that he got home on the 26th around 1. And I just thought to myself, like, geez, okay, so your stepson gets reported missing and you're on the job in your crane, and it's 3.5 hours away. Even if he left within an hour, he would have been home well before that. So that is weird to me. Like, who, if you're totally unaware of what's going on and you're completely innocent, and you got a phone call from your spouse, and you even sent your mother over there at the wee hours of the morning, made time to call his dad to not be mad at you, Why did it take you so long to leave work? Like, you don't think your boss, you don't go to your boss and say, hey, I have like an entire fleet of law enforcement agencies at my house. My stepson went missing. I have to leave like now. You don't think they'd be like, go? Come on. I don't believe it. And they have to be understanding because the time from when he did return to the amount of time he did have off before going back to work was, he probably used some paid time off and then some FMLA. So it's just bizarre that it took him till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's almost like he, one, knew he didn't need to rush home. Two, that gave time for everything to kind of be processed and thought about and evaluated. And it was just bizarre. He wasn't obviously loading up his camper because then he left again to do that. And that took, what was it? Like 17, I can't remember if it was 36 hours or 17 hours. I don't remember. It was an insane amount of time. Too long. So, it just reminded me of that. But I can say that Jules is still actively searching. That is wonderful news. I'm trying to remember the name of the canine organization. I believe that Seth or Tony's. I don't know. I did see something about them. Somebody came from Illinois. But that was the group that everything is all about. A huge. Yeah, I thought it was 17. Huge supporter of Tony Group and everything. So I don't know the name. But my understanding is it is a canine handler that they have brought in, I believe, from Illinois. But that's really all we know. Somebody who changed their name, I saw had, yeah. Okay. So this person posted, I don't know if some of you saw it. I feel like I need to say this after watching Seth on News Nation. I know you've all formed your opinions. Seth does have new PIs, but this time it was agreed to keep their identity private due to what happened with the others. And let me just stop right there and say this. The very first time that Heather was on YouTube regarding Sebastian, she said law enforcement basically outed her and gave her name and said she was the private investigator, that she did not want her identity known because it hindered her ability to do her job. That was like the very first time we ever saw her face attached to this. So I just want to make it clear that she was not trying to be public. But anyways, how do I know this? I personally know one of them. Yes, Seth has continued to search. He has gone out with the PIs. I went with them on one search. I saw Seth nearly pass out from the heat. I was there. I saw it. It's heartbreaking. But they have agreed not to publicize any searches, but know that they are happening. Seth has not given up hope, although I feel like deep down he believes Sebastian is no longer alive. As far as Michaela goes, I can tell you she inserted herself in this case. She hung around Seth and gave him a sad story of her financial hardships. Out of his kindness, he helped her with mortgage payments so she would not be homeless. After that, T-Rev came into town and she dipped. In my opinion, she used him during a vulnerable time. But we are past that now. Karma will take care of that. Regarding Seth's personality, in my opinion, he is a country guy. Yes, he talks and jokes, which may sound inappropriate to some, but true country folk understand him. He is real and authentic and speaks his mind. He has a good heart and genuinely loves his son. He admits he's made mistakes in the past and wishes he could change things. You don't have to believe me, that's okay, but I feel better speaking out on what I know. I have nothing to gain or lose. I hope they continue to keep the identities of the PIs and the searchers private. And yes, he is paying some of the PIs. So I don't know who that person is. They created a profile. It's subsequently in the comments, they said, no, I'm not using my real name. Why would I use my real name? So I don't know who they are. I don't know how far to trust anything they said. It could be one of the team people. There's Nikki Nicole Owens, who is attached with Tony. She's one of the ones that creates all the various missing person groups. She changed her name to like a longer name. And then people were like, wait a minute, who is like Nicole Princess something or other? I thought Nicole Owens was the admin, and then she never really commented, but then I was able to deduce she just changed her name, but she is the same person. So I don't know if this was one of their like team people who went in and, planted this, thoughtful message. Look, I'm not like cold-hearted. I feel bad. I feel empathy. But again, I still believe, um, put your big girl pants on, put your big boy pants on. You're adults and you have to own your decisions and you have to take responsibility for your actions. And, the people that you choose to retain, if they're not serving your best interest, you have to decide, do you stick with them just because um, you don't feel lonely, you feel like you've made a friend, or you choose to just, ride the wave. I don't know. But the reality to me is it's continuous. The trend is lack of taking responsibility for their actions, the people that surround Sebastian. The adults don't take responsibility for their actions. They're unapologetic. It's say whatever I want. And no, I'm not going to apologize. I'm just going to make you feel bad for me, for how I treat people. Or I'm just going to say that's how I am and I'm just being crystal clear. And the rest of us, or the majority of us, we don't just get to walk around and say and do whatever we want in life and treat people however we want to treat them, and do things and then just carry on. We're expected to, if we screw up, we're expected to take ownership of it, right the wrong, and but we can't I personally have been in more vulnerable situations in my entire life than anybody here would ever even imagine. You could call it like the worst luck in humanity. But I just don't, I've never used that excuse that, it was just because I was vulnerable. Or this was because I was young, or this was because of this, you know, um, I just, you did it, you irresponsibly handled, um, the public, the public side of your child's case. Every single parent has inappropriately handled how they publicly talk about their son. Every single one of them has inappropriately handled the way they searched for him, the way they advocated or didn't advocate for him. They have not handled themselves with authorities in the appropriate way. I still am not clear on if they're, uh, inappropriate, relationships with law enforcement, if TBI just took it all over, and Sumner County really doesn't have much involvement, or if really they're pretending that they're doing stuff and they're doing nothing, or do they have a big old, golden nugget that we don't know about, you know, and that's a time will tell. But all these people, just nobody ever takes responsibility for the actions and the effects of their actions. It started with the F off, and the truth of the matter is if you're that susceptible to not controlling, your emotions or your temper, because that's a Seth problem and it's a Chris problem. But yeah, Chris is way, way worse. You just shouldn't be talking at all. You just really shouldn't. Other than the brief little, like 1 minute little news segments they do. There's a reason these news stations don't let them just go and go and go on and on and on and on talking. Because at a point, the more they keep talking, it's very hard to feel bad when they say some of the things that they say. And that's feeling bad. We're talking about feeling bad for them. I feel horrible for Sebastian, whether he's with us or he's not with us anymore. I feel so bad that I believe he tried to advocate for himself. I believe he tried to save himself on more than one occasion, and everybody treated him like he was not smart enough because he was autistic. Couldn't possibly be telling the truth about things that were happening to him because he's autistic. He was dismissed. And I believe he tried his absolute hardest and was smart enough to know the right things to do in the situation he was in. And the teacher knew the right thing to do. And then it where to go from there. I think it's clear, that all of us in this world can make like horrible mistakes. Some of us make them young. Some of them, we can make them middle-aged. We can make them when we're older. Sometimes we just make them a lot. But I think you can tell a parent who makes mistakes in life, but they didn't, their mistakes weren't meant to be towards their children. They might have inadvertently affected their child, but then if you really love your child, like your mission is to just do right by them. Just fix it. Just fix it. And then you have the instances where you just see parents who just don't care. And I'm not saying it's all of Sebastian's parents never cared, don't love him or anything. But he tried. It's not, I mean, it couldn't be amazing because he couldn't even leave work right away. I mean, it's just all of the lies, and the failures just continue. And now it's not just the family that's failed him. There's so many people in the public that have shown up for him. And then there's so many people in the public that have failed him and continued to fail him the way he was failed before. And they do that by making a spectacle of the trauma he endured, by allowing inappropriate things to be said about him, oversharing of the juicy things. They think it's all juicy, and it's not. So there are plenty of people in the public realm that continue the trend of failing him. And you can say it's to bring his case to light, to keep his name out there. But I see what's really going on. I can hear it. I can hear it. I can read it. And I don't think you're being of help. That's all I can say about that. And then there's this just amazing other side of people in the community and in the public, and from even other states and things like that, that just have come forward for him with so much heart and love. And it's remarkable. But the more time that passes, I mean, it just gets more sad. It just gets more exhausting. It just makes you more angry. It makes you want to blame, law enforcement, because you don't know and you're not supposed to know. But at some point, you just want to know, like, what's real, what's not real. And I just believe that at some point, it's just not healthy to continue to take in all of the false information. To Sebastian, I mean, I believe that, in my opinion, allegedly, I hate that word. I believe there's this very high chance, in my opinion, that his mom, something happened, and he was taken. I could see both sides, the harm side and the disappearing act. What has evolved, this has been almost since the beginning, pretty early on, but the only thing that hasn't evolved is the fact that I do believe there's a chance that Chris's mom or family could have been involved. And if they were, I feel like law enforcement didn't consider it soon enough. And there would, traces of activity or phone calls and things like that from their side, or information that might have been obtained from their vehicle, whereabouts, things like that, maybe weren't looked at in the first 72 hours. And I worried that if they had any involvement, that's gone. And I believe that the only person, sure, if Sebastian is not found, I believe the only person that would speak would be Katie. And I think it would take a lot to get her to talk. Well, I mean, they're supposed to be quiet, and they're also going to be quiet if they don't have anything. If they're surveilling them, they're going to be quiet. They're not going to share that information. I have believed for a while that, Sumner County, even though they are attached in name, I believe my opinion was that, it basically was passed to TBI and that they were basically handling it from there. But when I draw the parallels between Elijah's case and Sebastian's case, I always go back to the search activity and, the amount of searches that happen for Elijah consistently that are spearheaded by law enforcement, not just volunteers and all of those things. Like the actual law enforcement, the fact that they pull back, in, March or, as early as they did, and then they just basically, we're not going to do any searching unless we have like, a smoking gun somewhere. It's bizarre to me. And it doesn't matter to me if they say, well, we're going to scale back our search because we have an investigation. I've said it from the beginning. You can do both. You can investigate and have searches at the same time. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. So there's just little things that get me discouraged about like Sumner County. And if something, if they really have nothing, if they really are just waiting for everybody to just stop talking about this because they don't have anything, they don't think they're going to have anything, and they just want this to go away. And I just pray to God that's not the case. Because I look at the pictures. I looked at the pictures, when they were eating together early on in the case. I looked at the campground pictures, and then I looked at the recent one, of Katie at the restaurant with Faith, and they're eating, and it just enrages me that a mother could even like drag herself out, to chow down on chicken legs and ribs and whatever, and never, I don't understand it. I just can't wrap my mind around it. It makes me so sad and so sick thinking about her, that she just isn't, like, her body should have been collapsing that first few weeks from the amount of searching she did. But she didn't do any, and neither did Chris. They were just not all over Hendersonville, walking through the woods and walking through the mud. And, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I would look harder for my neighbor's child if they didn't come home off the school bus. I would look harder for my neighbor's child. I don't even know my newer neighbors' names. I would look harder for their child tomorrow than these people have looked for their own child. I don't get it. And if it were to ever come to pass that they didn't do anything, which I don't know how you'd prove it unless you found him alive and he said, I left and this is why I did this. Otherwise, there's cases where they could find him and there was foul play. There's cases they could find him and maybe there was a form of foul play, but there was no evidence to show that. If you were forced out, lured out, or put in a bad situation. If he was to, how do you, and it's been so clear to me that I could see Chris and Katie just moving on. They're just waiting for the moment where it doesn't look so bad for them to sell the house. Some of the attention is off them and the case is a little colder and they can sell the house and not be upside down if they sell the house and they have some money to go somewhere and start over. I could see if it's just them and it's only Faith part-time, they'd probably be fine living out of the RV and selling the house. And I see Seth riding this wave a lot longer than he should. I think he's entangled and he has got an enmeshment with these people who are not good and they're not healthy and they're all fake and phony. And, like I said, just because I don't sit here and broadcast everything that I have learned about each and every one of them, because I don't have to do that. Just my knowledge in my head is enough. And I just can't. And the fact that this is who he is entangled with, I don't think that's going to change. And while I do believe he loves his son and he wants his son back, I think he will. There's also a celebrity of this to him and friendships he feels like he has out of this that are not healthy. And the longer Sebastian's gone, I think he's going to feel more alone and he's just going to cling to these people more and more and more. And it's sad. And the rest of that crew, I don't think it's the last we'll see of them. People like that, they're going to be trying to insert themselves everywhere they can. And there's always going to be people that support them. And I get so overwhelmed with disgust and anger at some of this stuff. It's just not healthy. It's just not healthy. It's just like, okay, oh, Karen, that is so wonderful. And it's all children. That is, it's just so many, there's so many children missing. There's so many children being harmed by their parents every day or by other people around them. Children that have lost their lives. Children that are being neglected. I mean, they're just being failed. And, which is, while I'm, obviously, I'm taking a very deep, intense dive onto Elijah's case, but I've got these side things that I'm in the beginning works of, and those will be playlists that will not necessarily be about any particular cases, and they're going to be more geared towards awareness and maybe a little bit of the educational side of bringing attention to the real signs of domestic violence and neglect, that I hope one day maybe, will be viewed by some good people in law enforcement that might want to start sharing it. So people in these organizations and at the different levels can maybe start understanding what's really, really, how to really identify these situations, beyond just maybe whatever their training is telling them. Because until you hear from people who lived it, and understand the things people say or do, or behaviors, or statements and things that are flags, I think that they can overlook them because they just don't look like another thing. And as you can see, like with a Chris Proudfoot, oftentimes the abusers, um, they can be so utterly charming when they want to be. You just, if you don't see the dark side, you can be really um, convinced by them, unfortunately. And the others, I would like to delve into um, mental health a lot. Um, so I would like those to be some separate playlists that I have out there. Just uh, because these are the roots. I mean, let's be serious. Mental health, domestic violence, neglect, addictions, substances, these are the roots. Um, these are the roots of almost all of these things that are happening to these kids and these teens. And especially, I haven't even, because you got, you try to dig into these things and you want to try to do things in a focused way. So unfortunately, you just can't go everywhere. But I've been learning more and more about the background of Holland Snap, Holly Lynn. I've heard been said both ways. Holly Lynn, Holland. But and her upbringing is just so heartbreaking. It's just so heartbreaking. Um, it is. And Karen, it isn't our place to judge people. Um, and but when I get in a place where maybe, because some people call things judging, and I don't know that it's, is judging the same as having an opinion, but I think that when I choose to pray in those situations where I just have a very strong opinion about something, um, I pray for the truth to come to light. I pray for the people who have knowledge to speak on what they know. For Katie to speak on what she knows. For Katrina Bauer to speak on what she knows. But, I didn't want to be part of the madness and the chaos. And so I just want to be clear that I will never give up on Sebastian. Um, I can't just discuss things that I just in my heart don't believe are factually based or real. Some of this stuff, it's one thing to just talk about opinions, but a lot of stuff that's out there right now, they're tying it to things that I think are just, um, you know, we're just making things out of things we want to do. And there's other ways that they could talk about him still and create their content around him still without using those things. So I just don't want to encourage it. And then it's, for some of the stuff, it's overkill. I see some of, a lot of the people in my group, I see them on other channels, in chats and things like that. And, if they're familiar names or faces to me, and I get a sense that maybe, most of you guys watch, let's say these 3 or 4 channels because maybe you've talked about them before, or I've seen your name in the chat or something like that a lot. I'm not going to keep playing the same interview that you guys have already watched, 3 or 4 times over and over again. And if I do feel like I think it's valuable enough to want to play, I just kind of take the consensus, as most of you know. If a lot of you say you already saw it, then I really don't want to put you all through that, because I hate when I go and I want to hear something and then I have to listen to what was, a 40-minute interview with someone. And, obviously there's discussion going on and it ends up being a 3.5-hour thing just for me to kind of get to the root. And so I just kind of like the root interviews. So I can just kind of take it all in without anything else being inserted. So, but yeah, for me, Rocco, it is getting super tired. I am super tired this week. And like I said, I've had just unbelievable leg muscle pain that has made it hard for me to sleep for days. I don't know where it came from. So I am going to hop off for tonight. But I do thank all of you guys for tuning in. I do have boatloads more on Elijah's case, but I can only get so much out at once. I don't want to overwhelm with so much information because there's just a lot of people involved. And but July 1st is her next hearing, and as it stands right now for Katrina, it is a scheduling conference on July 1st. So in my opinion, at that point they'll either be scheduling a trial date or we'll know about the plea. If I learn about the plea prior to that, I will let you know right away. And Jesse has his status conference on the 28th, and he is all in on going to trial. Well, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate you. And then I think it's next week we have, I think it is, if you guys have not, you probably wouldn't want to jump in on it. But everything's always, I always try to organize everything into my playlists, even the live streams, any videos I do and the live streams, even though the lives might be under lives, I still organize everything into playlists. So not everybody might be aware of the Tristan and Brittany Hull case. And they have a playlist, and especially Sandy, I believe it was Sandy who said she was all from Wisconsin. Yeah, this happening. They are both having pre-trial conferences on the 27th next week. So that's a really horrible, horrific case there too. So a lot of court hearings coming up in the next 10 days. So probably trying to get them all in before the 4th of July holiday, because I'm sure most aren't doing anything on the 4th, 5th, probably don't even want to do it on the 3rd. Tristan and Brittany Hull. I have a playlist for them. And their cases, yeah, it's sick. They're sick. It's just a sick situation there. But if I'm waiting to find out if the courtroom that they're going to be in is going to be an open courtroom, because I might just go, because I really want these people to feel like people are watching them. But again, in their case, I'm pretty sure. Let me just verify this, because I am. See, it says it's in Chambers. So I have a feeling maybe it will not be streamed or anything. I'll probably have to go to the courthouse again. Oh, they're such a pain in the butt. You have to physically go to the courthouse, search the documents and everything. But this is what I mean by a case-by-case basis, okay? The victim is not missing, and thank God she is still with us. But this is what I mean. Okay, Katrina Bauer, child is missing, neglect charges, $15,000 bond. These two, Tristan and Brittany Hull, $1 million cash bonds, each of them. $1 million. And this is, well, I'm looking at Tristan's, and his was chronic neglect of a child and child abuse intentionally causing great bodily harm. $1 million cash bond. That's what I mean. County by county, state by state, everything is taken so differently. But that is another case where I'd love to know where the biological mother was. What, I know she's with her biological mother now, but what did that mom know? Did she not have any rights? Was she not seeing her at all to see any of this evidence of that was apparent? What took so long? I'm trying to talk to the people in the church on that case. But it's so, so just a forewarning. It is, I keep comparing it, like think Ruby Frankie, Jody Hildebrandt kind of people, or kind of actions at least. Just not on a YouTube vlog, maybe. We don't know. There could have been the videos were going. We don't know if the videos were being stored and kept in home or if they were being put elsewhere. We don't know. So it's just terrible. But yeah, so a lot of court dates coming up. So, but in the midst of all this, let's just hope some of these people get some justice. And that we see some fair sentences come down. That's all we can really do. But yes, so I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. I'm going to hop off for now. And we will be back to discuss all of these. And like I said, if a trial has a live stream, I almost always stream it. But I have a feeling one of these might be in chambers, and that is not going to be streamed. I might see if they allow people to go in, but I feel like in chambers they're just talking to the judge or the judicial assistant. Blah, blah, blah. That was a tongue twister. Yeah. And Tristan is the biological dad, and Brittany is the stepmom. And I don't know if Sandy already is off for the night, but if she isn't, being from Wisconsin, she probably would be very interested. I'd be interested to know if she even heard about it. Yes, thank you. Thank you. You have a very stress-free weekend as well, Karen. Thank you for all of the prayers that you're putting out there for these kids. And again, you see the flyers, the faces, just continue to share them. That is something that we can all continue to do. So I thank all of you guys for being here tonight, and stay tuned, and I will see you guys again soon. Have a good night.